Konnichiwa!
Welcome to today's show. My name's Mike, and by day I'm a AAA games developer, but at night I love my retro gaming. In today's show, we're going to be checking out the PlayStation 2's best gaming trilogies. The PlayStation 2 was the biggest selling console of all time, and so it's no surprise that it's also the console that had the most sequels and trilogies and quadrilogies of any console of any era. The PlayStation 2 was Sony's last standard definition home console. It was also their last console to have a wired controller, and it was also their last console to have purely physical media. In the show, I'm going to be talking about my favourite PlayStation 2 trilogies, and there just happens to be 10 in my collection, so I guess this is kind of like a top 10. Make sure as we go through the collection that you leave a comment below on what your favourite trilogy on the PlayStation 2 is. Now, a couple of ground rules before we start. I'm not looking at any game series that had more than 3 titles in the series on PlayStation 2. So games like Onimusha that had 4, which was still an amazing game series, won't be in there. I won't be looking at sports titles either, as they're generally kind of updates to the game series rather than true trilogies or sequels to a game. And lastly, I will be looking at some game series that had more than 3 titles in the series, but that's because the additional titles were spin-offs from the main trilogy. Now we're going to kick off this PS2 Trilogy rundown with an absolutely fantastic game that had an absolute ton of spin-offs, and where its original title came out on the PlayStation 1, and that's Time Crisis. Now on the PlayStation 2 we got Time Crisis 2, Time Crisis 3 and Crisis Zone. Now on the current generation of console we don't have many light gun games, but back on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 we had a plethora of games for us to choose from, and Time Crisis was without doubt one of the best series that you could buy on the PlayStation 2. The co-op gunplay gameplay in this was fantastic.
There! Go, go, go! Action!
Next up we got the May Cry Trilogy. Oh my god. This trilogy was brilliant. The gun and sword gameplay that this trilogy brought to the PlayStation 2 was brilliant, and it spun off a brand new series for console gamers everywhere, one that's still around today. Now the Devil May Cry series was leaning heavily on the popularity of games like Resident Evil, this kind of horror genre that was out there, but it had a great twist on it, and that was that it was all action and all combat, and I absolutely loved some of the combos you used to pull off there. Combo attacks in this, the sword play, the gunplay in it. It was kind of like, what's that film called? I can't remember what it's called, but it had like Gun Carter in it. It was exactly this. It was such a great series to play on. So much fun, so intense all the time, but there was also puzzle and collecting elements in there as well. It's a brilliant trilogy, and if you haven't got this yet for your PS2, definitely pick it up.
Then, come on, sugar.
Now, platform games on the PlayStation 2 were extremely popular, and this is really where developers on the PlayStation 2 were putting their money, and that's because they could really lean on the graphical power of the PlayStation 2 and push out some stunning looking games. Now, one of the best games and gaming trilogies out at the time for platforms was Sly Raccoon. The Sly Raccoon series offered some really unique twists on the traditional platform gaming genre, whether it was how you traversed the environment or when you switched between your different sidekicks and used different powers to get around. You had to do some sneaking missions, there'd be missions where you're going out all out combat, there were collectibles in there. It really was a kind of almost genre-defining game for the platform. Now, for some reason I'm missing number 2. I reckon I've lent it to someone and never picked it up again. But it is a great series, and if you want to pick it up, just be careful of the price, because number 2 and number 3 can go for quite a bit of money.
Caught you red-handed.
That bazooka really brings out the color of your eyes.
I think it's time for some Cooper thieving and sabotage.
Let's get to it. I'm gonna steal my family's book back.
Wow, that's one tough owl.
I will finish you like I finished your father.
Dish it out. I'm ready.
Way to go, Sly.
Next up, we have a game that was an absolute console seller, not just for the PlayStation 2, but for the PlayStation 1 and even the PlayStation 3, and that's Final Fantasy. And on the PlayStation 2, there are actually 3 Final Fantasy games that came out. Unfortunately, I've only got 10 and 12, and that's because 11 didn't come out in the UK. But now that I've got my test kit with hard drive, I think it's about time that I picked up a Japanese copy of Final Fantasy XI. Now, Final Fantasy is one of my best RPG gaming series. In fact, I actually named my daughter Yuna after the main character Yunalesca in Final Fantasy X. Now, Final Fantasy still remains one of my favourite RPG games, although Final Fantasy XIII on the PlayStation 3, well, that kind of killed the series for me. I still pick it up and have a go. I really enjoyed the last one, 15, but 13 just left a bad taste in my mouth. But still, if you want to get an RPG gaming series for your PlayStation 2, I cannot recommend Final Fantasy 10, 11 and 12 enough. We're halfway through my PlayStation 2 Trilogy collection now, and next up we got another platform game, and it's the Jak and Daxter Trilogy.
Okay, I swear, that's the last time I ever touch any stupid precursor crap!
Now, Naughty Dog had just made a name for itself with its Crash Bandicoot series on the PlayStation 1, and it followed it up not with a sequel to Crash Bandicoot, but with a brand new IP, Jak and Daxter. Jak and Daxter follows the studio's formula of not necessarily redefining a genre, but making it one of the best in class in graphics, in mechanics, in gameplay, in sound design. Jak and Daxter had all of that in spades. Now, it's only halfway down my list of trilogies because I felt number 2 and number 3 kind of lost their way, and I'd wish they carried on with the format and formula and the world they created with Jak and Daxter the original. Didn't spoil the series, these were still great games, but number 1 was just so damn great.
So there we were. Weapons bristling under rumbling hoods.
Talking to me?
Yeah, you talking to him?
Now, our next trilogy sits at number 5 for me, and it was a release title for the PlayStation 2, and that's Timesplitters. The Timesplitters trilogy is one of those series where the game gets better with each subsequent release of the game, with Timesplitters Future Perfect being the best first-person shooter that I had played on the PlayStation 2. Now, Medal of Honor was a great first-person shooter on the PlayStation 2, and in fact spawned 4 titles on the console. But I really loved the fast-paced nature of Timesplitters. The characters that you could unlock from it, the different gameplay modes you can get in it, and the couch co-op on it, 4-player couch co-op on it, is unbeatable. If you've got a PlayStation 2, you definitely need to pick up this and 4 controllers because it is one of the best trilogies that you can play on the PlayStation 2, and definitely one of the best co-op first-person shooters that you can play.
First kill. That's gotta hurt. Killing spree.
It's getting serious now. My last 4 titles of my best trilogies on the PlayStation 2 were so difficult to choose between. But at number 4, I've gone for Prince of Persia. Now, whilst Naughty Dog took Jak and Daxter and made an extremely well-rounded platforming game, Ubisoft took Prince of Persia and made one of the best platforming games of the generation. Prince of Persia had everything. It had story, it had great gameplay, fantastic mechanics, and awesome sound design. Prince of Persia on the PlayStation 2 really was the origin story for Assassin's Creed. The traversal in this game is second to none on the platform, and its mechanics in there. The unique mechanic of reversing time in there was just mind-blowing at the time. The storyline in this game took the Prince of Persia on 3 stunning quests across this trilogy, and with each game the mechanics and storyline and graphics and environments got better and better and better, much like the current Assassin's Creed games. Ace Combat is the next trilogy for me, and for me this is a bit of a guilty pleasure, or at least I thought it was. When I first got this game I thought I was one of the few people that kind of played it and enjoyed the corny lines and dialogue in the game, but it turns out there's millions of you out there that love the Ace Combat series. The dogfighting in this game is phenomenal. Now at its core this is a kind of arcadey / flight sim game, but it's super polished, and for me it's a real guilty pleasure because it's kind of like that Top Gun experience. The gameplay is pretty much the same throughout it. Yeah, you get some new planes, there's different environments, different mission objectives, but you're flying big, powerful, fast planes around, shooting the hell out of other planes. It's just something I absolutely love in this series. It is such a great trilogy on the PlayStation 2. If you love shoot 'em ups, or if you love kind of flight sims or arcade games, I definitely recommend at least picking up the first one. It's such a great game, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it's a guilty pleasure too.
The goal of this operation is simple: to invade and occupy the Yuktavani and mainland.
What are we gonna do, kid? I'll follow you. Maybe we should start calling it ballistic missiles are coming. The arc? What was that?
It's like this enemy came straight out of the Demon Legends. It can't be.
What else could be next but Ratchet and Clank? Probably the best fun I've had in a platform game ever. It is genius. The character design in this, Ratchet and Clank, the missions that they go on is just super quirky, the humour in it's brilliant, the weapons in it are great, the level design is amazing. Seriously, if you've never played this game or never heard of it on the PS2, then go out, buy a PS2 and get this game. You will have so much fun playing it. It's a genius title, and one that you can still pick up today on current gen consoles. In fact, they've even made a movie about it.
Is it dangerous?
Well, actually, yes it is.
Good. Was pretty impressive.
Well, team, I believe some congratulations are in order.
So the last game in my PlayStation 2 trilogy rundown, it's no surprise, it's the Grand Theft Auto trilogy on PlayStation. Now I both love and hate Grand Theft Auto at the same time. When Grand Theft Auto 3 was in development, I was working at Sony PlayStation and was developing an open world sandbox game in a city that involved shooting, cars, guns, on-foot gameplay called The Getaway. And Grand Theft Auto beat us to market by 6 months. Now granted, the game is fun. We did a lot of things better than Grand Theft Auto. They did a lot of things better than us. And I just can't help but thinking 6 months sooner, if we were 6 months out earlier, would The Getaway have gone a different path? Would it have been better? Probably not. But still, it was one of the things that kind of choked me up that Grand Theft Auto got there first, and now is one of the biggest franchises in the world. And in case you're wondering what my favourite game in the series is, well, that's easy. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. In fact, I don't think they've even beaten Grand Theft Auto Vice City in the entire series. This game had it all, but more importantly, it had the 80s.
South, downtown.
If you want to get into retro gaming, then the PlayStation 2 is a great place to start. It has a ton of games that are super cheap, the consoles are easy to pick up, and it's the next console that's going to come into the retro gaming family. I've loved playing all these games over the last week. It's been such a nostalgical hit for me. But they've held up so well, you could pick up a game now and you'd still enjoy it, even if you're used to next generation consoles. It's been a stunning month on the Retro Gamer Boy Show this month, with nearly 200 of you subscribing to the channel. If you're new, welcome. Don't forget to hit the little notification bell, which is around here somewhere. And if you haven't subscribed, then definitely click on my little pixel head below. We talk about retro gaming every week and look at some of the best games in my collection. Now, whether you're new or you're a seasoned vet of the Retro Gamer Boy Show, you'll want to stick around for next week's show because I got something super special for all of you. But since you're here, why not check out these two videos over here?